Hey guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are well and I hope you guys are staying safe. My name is Ayotola, the creative director of So Unique by Adunni and the content creator of this channel, So Unique by Adunni. We recently changed our names for those of you who picked up on it. It used to be DIY with So Unique by Adunni, but I decided that was a bit too long and I took out the DIY with and I just left it as So Unique by Adunni. And if you're new here wondering what this channel is about, well, this is a DIY fashion channel where we teach you how to make your own outfits, right? So if there's a particular style that you like, you can send it to me. I do have a backlog of requests, though, I will be honest. However, I just teach you how to sew. I do sewing tutorials and I try to make them as detailed as possible. So if that's your cup of tea, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on the awesome content that I have for you. To all my OGs, welcome back. Thank you so much for being a part of this family. You guys are absolutely amazing, and this channel, will not be here without you. So thank you so much. All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to be learning how to sew the shirt that I'm wearing, okay? And it's a two-part video. So last week I released part one, where I actually took you through the process of, pattern drafting as well as cutting out your pieces, right? And in this particular video, we're going to be learning how to sew those pieces together. So you want to whip out your sewing machines and get sewing. I really like the shirt because it's got the Mandarin or the bishop collar, right? And I take you through the process of actually drafting that pattern as well as actually sewing it. So again, if you missed that video, please go ahead and watch it. And then I love the fact that it's got like sleeves that can be adjusted. So I have got it long right now. I can have it like, 3/4, and that just increases the volume. I really like that about it. So really, I think it's a really nice shirt. It's got jumbo buttons, as you can see. I used, my other machine to make buttonholes, and I just, hand sewn the button onto it really. So basically, I think it's really easy to make. I do hope the tutorial is as detailed as I wanted it to be. And if you do enjoy it, please leave your comments in the comment section below. All right, without further ado, let's get straight into the tutorial. Enjoy, guys. A quick recap from last week. So last week we drafted our patterns and cut out the pieces. This week we're going to continue sewing. So the first piece we cut out was the collar piece, and as you can see, we didn't add any allowance to this piece because all the allowances were added onto the pattern. We also cut out the yoke piece with an allowance of 1/2 inch all around, as you can see. We cut out the back piece, we cut out the extra facing for the left side of the shirt, and then we also cut out the front piece. So this is a quick recap of the front piece, and the reason why I am doing a recap for the front is because remember that we already added the button stand onto the pattern. However, I forgot to add the button stand facing for the right side of the shirt, and for that I'm marking 5.5 centimeters right from the button stand, and I'm marking that on my fabric because, like I said, I should have done this on the pattern. However, this would only be present on the right side of the shirt. So even though at the moment I'm cutting it on both pieces of the shirt, eventually I will trim it off the left side of the shirt. I hope this makes sense. Mark out your allowances and cut out your pieces, and it will be time to sew in just a little bit. For the left side of the shirt, it has a freestanding facing, which is what I'm holding right now. So this is the facing, and this facing has all the allowance. Now we're going to go ahead and get the front pieces, which is both of them, and we're going to go ahead and separate these pieces because this freestanding facing is going to go on one of them and is going to go on the left side when you're wearing the shirt. Before separating the pattern from the fabric, make sure you mark your dart. So at this point, I'm just notching my dart legs, and I'm going to go in with an awl and also mark the pivot point. I'm only interested in this dart here at the armhole, and that's because for the waist dart, I will not be using it because I want the shirt to be free and not fitted. After separating the pieces, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of them, and at this point, I have the left side. And when I say it's the left side, it's actually the left side when it's on your body. So basically, I have the right side of the fabric facing me and the wrong side facing the table. Place the pattern on it and then go ahead and cut off that excess button stand that I added. If you remember when I was marking the button stand, I said I only needed it for one of the pieces, which was on the right side. So on this left side, I'm cutting off this button stand, as you can see, and I didn't add any allowance to the top front of the button stand. After that's been cut off, we're going to go ahead and get the freestanding facing. And this is the freestanding facing. I'm just checking to see that it matches the current fabric, right? Once you can see that it sits nicely as it should be and it matches, then I'm happy with the results. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach this freestanding facing onto that side of the shirt. And we must remember that the side that has the freestanding facing is the left side when you're wearing the shirt, and the other side that has the attached facing is the right side. I hope this is not confusing. To start sewing, I'm going to be starting with the right side. So that's the right side when you're wearing it. And as you can see, I'm making all my marks now on the right side. So the first thing I wanted to do is use my pattern to identify where the center front actually ends and where's the extension. Once I've identified that, I'm going to go ahead and fold 1.5 centimeters, which is the allowance that I left first. And then I'm going to fold 4 centimeters as the button stand. I went ahead to iron this out so that it stays in place, and as you can see, I have 1.5 centimeters folded first and then 4 centimeters folded after as my button stand that is attached. So on this side of the shirt, we didn't attach any external button stand. The button stand was attached pretty much from, the get-go. Once you're happy with that, you want to go ahead and sew it in place. And what this does is it holds the button stand in place and you don't have it moving. This is what it looks like after sewing, and this is the right side of the shirt. Moving on to the left side of the shirt, you want to go ahead and grab it on the table so that the right side is facing you. Then you want to get the free floating facing, and then you want to go ahead and place it on it so that it's aligned. When you're happy with it, then you want to go ahead and place the facing underneath the main fabric so that the right side of the facing is against the wrong side of the main fabric. At this point, remember that we're working with the left side of the shirt. So you want to place it so that the facing has its right side facing the back side of the main fabric. After doing that, go ahead and sew it on 1 centimeter allowance or 0.5 centimeter allowance, depending on what you've left in your drafting. And after sewing it, you want to go ahead and iron it in place so that it's flat. After ironing it, this is what it looks like. I went ahead to also fold in the other allowance so that we can close it in place. At this point, I'm just checking it against the other part of the shirt to make sure it's fine. Once I'm happy with it, I'm also looking at the button options at this point, and then I decided to go for a black button after all. So, moving back to the button stand, after sewing the back facing onto it, we're going to go ahead and fold in a little bit on the other side as well and top stitch it. This is what it looks like after sewing the button stand, and at this point, it is done. Moving on to the back pieces, notch the midpoint of the yoke that attaches to the center back and also notch the midpoint of the center back that attaches to the yoke. After notching them, align them. You will remember that when we were cutting, we cut 2 pieces for the yoke, and this was intentional because I wanted to have it neatly enclosed. However, if you want, you can have 1 piece for the yoke. Go ahead and arrange the yoke pieces as it should be, and this is what it looks like. For me, what I'm doing is placing the right side of the yoke on the right side of the main fabric for one part, and then on the other part of the yoke, I'm placing the right side against the wrong side of the main fabric. Essentially, in this case, I have my main fabric sandwiched between my yoke pieces. And I'm starting from the notch and pinning my way to the sides. After doing that, sew on 1/2 inch sewing allowance, which is what I left in my case. After sewing, this is what it looks like. I went ahead to put it back in the way it should be, give it a good iron and top stitch. Again, I'm only doing this because I've used 2 pieces for my yoke. If you have 1 piece, you can just overlock. Place the front piece on the back piece so that the right sides are facing each other, and then align them. Then you want to go ahead and pin your waist starting from the shoulders, making sure the shoulders are aligned. So pin the shoulders together as shown. And also you want to go ahead and pin the side seams. So on the shoulders, you want to go ahead and mark your sewing allowance of 1/2 inch, which is what I left in this case. And then on the side seam, you want to go ahead and mark out a sewing allowance of 1 inch, which is what I left as well in my case. So depending on your sewing allowance and the sewing allowance you left at the side seam and the armhole, go ahead and sew it in place. After sewing the side seam and the sewing allowance, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I went ahead to overlock it, so it looks really neat in my opinion. The next thing to do is to sort out the hem by folding it over twice like so. So make sure you sew the double hem, and after sewing the hem, this is what the shirt looks like. At this point, in my opinion, it looks really neat and the shirt is nearly finished. Moving on to the collar, you want to go ahead and notch the point where your collar meets the armhole and notch the center back as well. Then open it up and sew along the arch as shown. After sewing along the arch, this is what it looks like. I'm trimming it off so that it's as low as possible without cutting through the stitches, and this will allow our collar to sit really nicely. So go ahead and trim off every excess as shown. And then after trimming off, you want to go ahead and open it and iron it in place. So at this point, I'm just opening it and I'm using my edge corner to push it out. After ironing the collar flat, this is what it looks like. The next thing to do is to attach the collar to the shirt. Starting with the wrong side of the shirt, you want to go ahead and fold it into two and notch the center back. Now, the next thing we want to do is pin the collar to the shirt, but you want to do this while the collar is opened so that you have the front and the back of the collar. So open up the collar like I'm doing and then pin the notch on the collar center back to the notch on the center back of the shirt. Go ahead and also pin the notch on the collar shoulder area to the shoulder area of the shirt. And then lastly, you want to go ahead and pin the end of the shirt to the end of the collar. You must remember that when we were drafting the collar, we made sure to add a button extension of 2 centimeters, which is the button extension that we added to the center front for the shirt. After pinning the 3 main points, the center back, the shoulder, and the end, go ahead and work your way, pinning through the entire collar until it's comfortable for you to sew it in place. After doing that, go ahead and sew it on the allowance you've left, in this case 1/2 inch. After sewing it, this is what it looks like. If you need to notch, go ahead and give it a notch where necessary so that it flows nicely. Next, you want to go ahead and top stitch the collar close by folding it over based on the allowance you've left and then holding it in place with pins like I'm doing. So at this point, I know it's a bit tricky, but trust me, it's very important. Gently fold the collar in on the right side and hold your folds in place with pins where necessary. At this point, you want to take your time because you're working on the right side of the fabric and everything you do will be visible. Be sure to make sure it's folded evenly, and if you like, you can iron to keep your folds in place. After folding all through and you're happy with the result, you'll need to top stitch this in place. Go ahead and top stitch all around as shown, and if you like, make it continuous. At this point, make sure your top stitching is neat as it will be displayed on the right side of the fabric, as you can see. This is what mine looks like after top stitching. Go ahead and give your shirt a good iron and your shirt is nearly finished. The last thing will be to do the sleeves. To finish off the sleeves, you'll first want to measure the armhole. Using your measuring tape, lay the shirt flat on the table and measure the armhole curve. To cut the sleeves, go ahead and fold your fabric into 4. That's because we're going to be cutting both sleeves together. Then with the sides with the 2 folded edges, you want to go ahead and mark out your sleeve length. So I'm starting with the sleeve length that is really long because of the sleeve style. After marking the sleeve length, I draw a horizontal line to be sure of where the sleeve starts and ends, and then at that point, I go ahead and mark the armhole curve measurement that I've taken. I marked this measurement all through the sleeve length, and that's because for this particular sleeves is straight. If you want a detailed tutorial showing you how to draft freehand sleeves normally, please check out the link I've put below in the description box and the iCard above, or a pattern sleeve, please check out the video that I have linked in the iCards above. After drafting the sleeve, go ahead and cut it out as shown. And after cutting it out, you want to make sure you notch the top of the sleeves. This is very important. Separate the sleeves so that it's easier to work with, and then go ahead and fold one over as shown. sew along the vertical sides, and after sewing on 1/2 inch, which is the allowance I left, go ahead and overlock it as shown. I'm using my Janome 2000D Air Thread overlocker, and it just works so smoothly. After overlocking the sleeves, this is what they look like. So basically, I just sewed along the vertical side and overlocked it. Next, we want to go ahead and fold the elastic casing in place by folding it 1/2 inch twice. So a double hem, right? Fold it over once and another time. After doing that, you want to go ahead and hold it in place, and make sure you do this all around and on the other sleeve as well. At this point, it's important to say that when you're sewing it, don't sew it all through. Make sure to leave a gap unsewn. So you want a gap of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches unsewn, just like I'm showing you here. Next, we're going to go ahead and thread the elastic into the elastic casing. So that hem is what we call the elastic casing. And to thread your elastic, you can use safety pin. However, I love these tools that I found on Amazon, and they are the Elastic Threader by Prime. So I'm using the smallest one because the elastic I'm using is 1/4 inch elastic, and I'm passing it into the elastic threader as shown. And then once I pass it in and I secure it, I'm going to go ahead and use that to thread my sleeves. You want to make sure you hold on to the other end of the elastic, and that's because you don't want to lose the elastic inside the casing. Once you pass it in and it comes out on the other side, you want to make sure to secure the elastic by sewing it in place. So we want to go ahead and sew it in place. The best stitch to use for elastic is zigzag. However, I just use the straight stitch. After sewing it, you want to sew the gap close, and this is what it looks like. Of course, repeat this for the second sleeve as well. Now that that's been done, you want to go ahead and sew the sleeve to the shirt. To sew the sleeve to the shirt, start from the side seam of the sleeve and the side seam of the shirt and pin them in place so that they align. Next, pin the sleeve notch that's at the top to the shoulder of the shirt so that they align. Next, you want to go ahead and work your way to pin the rest of the shirt to the rest of the sleeve. For me, I find that it works better when I'm working from inside the shirt, so that's the wrong side of the shirt, and I pass the sleeve into it. However, it's important that you check that your positioning is right. Work your way around the sleeves, like I said, by pinning it in place, making sure you ease it in. Usually you find that the sleeves are slightly bigger than the armhole, but that is absolutely okay, and with easing it in, you would have no problem at all. Sew this in place, and after that, your shirt is done. This is the finished product, guys. I hope you liked it, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope it was worth your while. If you have any comments, suggestions, feedback, please leave them in the comment section below. I will be reading and responding. And of course, I'm sure I will see you guys next week. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button before you go. Bye.